You're listening to the Heart and Hustle podcast. We are your hosts, Evie McLeod and Lindsay Roman. Today, I'm just going to tell you, is a non-skip episode. I'm just going to say that right now. There is so much gold in this conversation that I truly believe everyone needs to hear. Today, we had the incredible privilege of sitting down with a true powerhouse, Holly Wehde. Now, Holly is an entrepreneur, visionary, and legacy builder. Her calling is to empower people to be all they were created to be. And this began with raising and homeschooling her 5 children, pastoring a church with her husband, and founding and running multiple million-dollar companies. She is the founder of the Business for Good company, Trades of Hope, has traveled worldwide helping rescue women out of the slums and brothels so that they can start businesses for their families. And she owns many passive businesses and proudly operates joy-filled businesses in her beach town to reach her community while traveling and speaking to women about being all that they're created to be. Now, her unofficial bio is that she is our neighbor, our close friend Chelsea Antos's mom, and our claimed bestie too. So, it was a good girl chat. During our conversation with Holly, she talked about the core principles that have shaped her remarkable family culture. Holly shares her insight on homeschooling and how to raise children who grow into powerful, competent, and capable individuals, unafraid to take healthy risks and thrive as adults. Holly shared so much goodness about how her mission with raising her kids has always been to value open discussion, healthy relationships, intentionality, and everything they do, and how to cultivate a genuine personal relationship with Jesus. What she shares is quite literally life-changing for any parent and honestly anybody. That's why this is a non-skip episode. But we also cover with Holly how her and her husband Mike have beautifully integrated their love for entrepreneurship and owning businesses into their family culture. And they've created honestly an environment that nurtures the entrepreneurial spirit, fostering a sense of purpose, creativity, and self-belief in their children. And can I just say from personal experience, it has been life-changing to be around just even as a community. So get ready to be inspired and empowered as we learn from the incredible wisdom and experience of our dear friend, Holly Wehde.
All right, let's talk about Pinterest. You know, that beloved site you spend hours upon hours on curating your dream home, closet, and wedding. It's fun, right? But it's also more than just fun. Did you know that Pinterest can be an invaluable tool for your own business?
Here's the deal. Pinterest is an extremely powerful search engine that you can leverage to get your brand and business out there. It's a way to reach new audiences that you wouldn't normally reach through other social media, which is why we wanted to shed light on this popular social platform and share a few reasons why you should be utilizing it now to exponentially grow your business and expand your audience. Honestly, it is the number one traffic driver to my business.
Yes. If you feel lost on where to start, don't worry. We have a whole pin your heart out freebie ready for you to dive into the marketing and help you start the process. So you can snag it at theheartuniversity.com/Pinterest.
You're listening to the Heart and Hustle podcast with Evie Rupp and Lindsay Roman, 2 photographers turned entrepreneurs and founders of the Heart University. If you're a creative entrepreneur or a motivated dreamer wanting to make the most of your life, this podcast is for you. Each week, Evie and Lindsay bring you actionable tools to uplevel your business and life. So if you're ready to step up to the plate and pursue your God-given potential, you're in the right place. You're ready to live your life and run your business to its fullest? Then buckle up, because here are your hosts, Evie and Lindsay.
Holly, hello, and welcome to the party. We're excited you're here.
Woo! I'm so excited to be here, ladies.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
This is going to be such a fun and energetic conversation.
I can't wait to introduce you to the world. Just because since we moved to Florida, I've got to know you a lot. No, oh, wow, that sentence didn't grammatically make any sense. But I just can't. You have such freaking goodness to share. And I can't wait to introduce you to our audience. Yes.
Thank you.
I love it. Okay, so for those who maybe aren't neighbors with you, like Lindsay and soon to be myself, at the time of this air date, it will be myself. Anyways, for those who don't know you, Holly, are you down to kind of introduce yourself, tell us what you do, who you are, all the good stuff?
You bet. You bet. Well, I am a passionate person. I love to dance, love to have fun. I love business, and my relationship with Jesus and my family is absolutely everything to me. I've been madly in love with my husband, Mike, for 35 years. I'm a homeschool mom of 5 very entrepreneurial kids, 4 grandkids. I am a serial missional entrepreneur. And what that means is I own businesses ultimately to reach people with the love of God. And I'm a speaker, a co-pastor, church planter of Life Coast Church in Palm Coast with my husband. And we own 2 waffle cone ice cream shops, 2 Swillerbees donut coffee shops with our kids. We own commercial and residential rental properties as well as Airbnb. And I started a global fair trade company called Trades of Hope when I was 40 with my daughter who is 16 and a partner and friend. And this week, actually 2 days ago, we just bought a non-medical transport business. So
yes, you did. Oh gosh. Okay.
So basically, let me just synopsize that. That's not the right word, but whatever. Let me just boil that down really quickly. Holly is an absolute badass, and you are the coolest person I know. And we are going to literally all come sit at around your little like rocking chair today. That makes you sound old. I was going to say at your feet. I was going to say at your feet, and then I was like, then that makes you sound like we're worshiping you. Okay, I don't know where to go with this. My point was we're all going to come and sit and learn from you today. That was my point.
Off the rails.
Well, can I just say I've never been introduced with pastor and badass in the same sentence. But I'm good with it.
Welcome to the Heart and Hustle podcast.
Okay.
Also, I want to connect some dots for all of our listeners. If you follow Evie or I, or you've listened to this podcast, Holly's daughter is Chelsea Antos. Just to connect those dots, because obviously Antos is her married name. So if you're looking at this episode and you're like, Holly Wade, you don't understand. This is her mom. So just
basically one of our best friends' mother, who Holly is also becoming one of our, but we're claiming her as one of our best friends. So.
Yay. Oh, I like best friends rather than mother. So
you are. I just didn't want to be like, Holly's one of my best friends and I haven't even moved to Florida yet. You know what I mean?
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
Oh man. Okay. Well, let's dive in, because I know, Holly, you are a well of wisdom. So I just want to get all the juice and the goodness and the wisdom that you have into other people's earbuds. So,
awesome.
The first thing I would want to say is it has been so much fun moving here and just having y'all welcome us into your family and just your community and your church. Everything has just been so amazing. And Andrew and I look up to you and Mike for 5 million reasons, but especially how you raised your kids and established a family legacy within your family, from your family culture from the beginning, and how that's just trickled down and how you can so obviously see the fruit of that. And so my first question is, was that an intentional choice from the very beginning, for, I guess, your parenting, or did it evolve over time?
Well, we've always been very intentional about what we wanted to see in our family and what we wanted our family to look like. So I think very intentional to begin with, but as our kids got bigger and God really started blessing us, it went from just being sort of this spiritual legacy that we wanted to build to realizing God had really blessed us. The Bible verses that talk about in Matthew with the talents, God all of a sudden was blessing us. And we realized God, you're calling us for not just a spiritual legacy, but actually a financial legacy, a business legacy. And those all, of course, wrap up with the main focus being spiritual legacy. So definitely has evolved. And I'm excited because I think it's going to keep evolving.
Yes. Oh, I love it. What is your family culture like? If you could describe it for someone who has never been around you guys, who doesn't know, as we're talking about what you and Mike have built and how beautiful it is, and now what your kids are building in their families and how beautiful that is and everything, how would you describe that to somebody who hasn't been around you guys and experienced the beauty of what you have?
I think the first word, it's not the word I necessarily would say I want it to be, but I know it's intentional. We are very, very intentional. We really want to add value with people wherever we go, in whatever situation that we're in, both as individuals and as a family unit. Because as a family, no matter what, no matter how old my kids get, we belong to one another. This is who God's called us to do life with. They always say they stick around forever. So growing those relationships. So we're very intentional in our relationships. We have a very high belief in our calling as a family. And so we really aren't afraid, even to do the scary things, to step into the scary things and take risks and even fail, because we believe, because of the word of God, that even failure is going to teach us so many great lessons. So it doesn't scare us to do that. We work really hard, but I hope we balance it with a lot of fun. Chelsea actually is very helpful in adding a lot of fun in our life, because it could get a little work hard. A lot of fun. And I think we really value authentic communication, maybe too much. But I say that because my kids always prepare their friends when they come to our house. They're like, my mom is going to ask a lot of questions, and she's probably going to ask your 5-year plan for your life. And then she's going to ask to pray for it. If she can pray over you for your
I love it though. That's part of what makes like you guys and your family so powerful. Like that's so rare to encounter. Even with friends that you are like getting to know and you've spent a good amount of time with, it's so easy to still go into like these, surface level small talk conversations. And you and Mike and what you've built in your culture and your family is so intentional. And it's like, hey, life is short. We are here to do big things.
Absolutely.
Let's be intentional with it. And it's so beautiful.
I feel like a good picture of this is Chelsea, our neighbors, technically, your daughter, hosts family Sabbaths every Friday, which we technically have talked about on the show with Jeremy Pryor. So if I don't know what episode it was, but so the first one that we ever came to, I remember we were sitting around the dinner table and I think Mike, your husband, was like and this is probably normal for you guys, but we hadn't ever been in like a family situation where I've actively seen somebody be this intentional. Where he we were eating and I think he was like, all right, let's go around and what's everybody's what did God teach you about this week? Right, and I was like, wow, that's like a deep dinner conversation that isn't just it's not even just superficial. It's not just hey, what was your favorite part? I don't know. It was just more intentional and also made you think about your life in a specific way, over dinner. And that's just the perfect example of how you guys live literally your daily lives, always.
Yes, and it's very scary to some people. So I'm so glad we didn't scare you off because we love we love your family so much because we have definitely probably scared some families off.
No, we literally moved to Florida for y'all. I mean, your family, that is the culture that we were attracted to, and we were like, oh no, we want to be around this. So we definitely did scare us off.
I love it. So Holly, for you, what I guess are some of the things you were intentional about in raising your kids as they were a bit younger, as you cultivated this intentional family culture? Yeah, in a culture, I guess, that also just doesn't know the Lord, how were you intentional to cultivate that faith and relationship with Him in them from a young age?
Well, we got connected in a homeschool community. So like I said, we're a homeschool family and that's a whole other story. But, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about, it's in Deuteronomy, that talks about, teach your kids these important things and impress them on their heart. As you talk about them, when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up and when you're sitting around the table and having conversations with their friends. So those types of things, that's what we really tried to live out, is that relationship with Jesus was always at the forefront of our life. And I want to say this really quick. We've made a million mistakes and that God's grace just covers so much. So I don't want to make it sound like Mike and I are perfect parents or our kids are perfect kids. But we just chase after Jesus in our imperfections and He's blessed that. But Jesus is at the forefront of our life. And I think, our kids saw the simple things young moms listening today, let that relationship with Jesus be a part of you and your kids' relationship. It's not a private, hidden thing. My kids saw me having personal devotions. We had family devotions. We worshiped together. We always talked about what God was doing in our life. And man, if a miracle happened, which so many of them did, we didn't talk about them one time. We praised God that time. We wrote them down. We read them another time in journals and in little sticky notes. And we talked about, remember when God did that? And we also talked about life lessons of failures. Mike and I are pastors and church planters. So there's been, the normal amount of hurts in our life. And our kids have seen that. And instead of trying to do it all behind closed doors, we shared those things with our kids so they could actually learn with us. We didn't hide the hard stuff. We actually used them as lessons, even when we failed. Because here's the thing, and especially my kids were always listening. That's what you're going to learn about your kids. Even when they're little, you do not realize they are literally behind a door listening. What are they saying? I mean, I cannot believe what they hear all the time. And, one thing I always tell people, especially young moms, is, make sure Jesus is real in your home. And real to you, because if He's not, He is not going to be real to your kids. You just can't be, love Jesus on Sunday. And, at home, you're screaming at your kids and they see no reflection of Jesus in your life. So model biblical truths and model the good and bad ones, meaning those lessons, asking forgiveness when you blow it, because you're going to make mistakes. And honestly, I think that's one of the best ways to teach your kids is yes, mom needs Jesus too, because I just did this thing and I'm ashamed. I'm sad. And I know I hurt you and I know I hurt Jesus too. And what's great about that is they'll know, well, my gosh, if mommy and daddy, and Mike does this actually way better than me. He's way more humble. But I would say, anyway, if you run to Jesus, your children will run to Jesus. If they see you living out those biblical truths and also modeling generosity with your money. This is something, the Bible does talk about don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. But when we're teaching our kids, like, we want to tell them, like, we gave to this particular thing and look what God did with it. Look at how it blessed them, rather than keeping all that hidden, because we want to train them up in the way they should go. And we want them to see the blessings that come out of being generous with money, being generous with your resources, being generous with your time. We served in church. We actually served together as a family in ministry, and we do believe in the local church. And I know there's kind of move away from that where, people are kind of doing their own thing, but, we are biblical Christians that believe in the word of God and that you should be a part of a local church. And that means with that come people. And, as they say, it'd be great being a pastor if it weren't for the people, because people suck sometimes. And so teaching our kids that people suck sometimes and they do hurt us. And that's why, we're called to forgive and we're called to move past it and, not be easily offended. And then lastly, it's through church that we created a tribe of people around us. And this, I think, is so incredibly important. Create a tribe of people around you who share your values to do life with, that love your kids and also model biblical truths to them so that you are not the only one. And one thing I love is you've talked about moving here and becoming integrated in Chelsea and Ryan's life. And I literally want to cry when I see that, because Mike and I had that. And we feel like part of the reason our kids are so strong, in their faith and in the things in life is because they had people around them who rooted for them, that spoke into them, that believed in them. And it wasn't just Mike and I. It was the people that we chose to be in their life. And I know you guys are going to do that for my grandkids. So that thrills me. And we'll get to do that for your kids as we get to know them. I mean, I know your kids run up to me and call me Mumsy now, and that makes me want to cry because I'm seeing the same thing that Mike and I got in my children's lives. And so, that's an incredible joy to see.
Oh my gosh. That I have 5 million things to say. Literally every single Sunday morning, Eloise runs up to Mike, the freaking pastor of the church. But she'll just run up and she'll hug him and be like, Pop, I don't know what you call, what's his name?
Papa.
Oh, Papa. Yeah. As if he's one of her grandpas. He's just he has a bunch. That's just one of them. I literally have so much to say. Yeah, no, that's literally why we moved, was for that culture and just to grow up where in a space where, yeah, you're not the only two, you and your husband are not the only two people pouring into your kids. It's right. A community. But if I could pull from kind of what you said, just to give our listeners a breakdown, because you just spewed 5 million nuggets of truth in everything that you just said. But I heard to have open communication in your family, which I think is something that a lot of families probably don't do. Not every family, but a lot of families, I think, don't have open communication when you get hurt, when you have your feelings, no one, we just shove it under the rug, or we're just everything's good in sunshine, but it's really not. Right. And I think a lot of people could probably resonate to that. So I feel like a tip that I'm hearing from what you just said was, as you're raising kids, learn to be open, share the hard parts, even apologize to them when you mess up, and then share Jesus in a real way. I love that you mentioned share miracles with them and make it a real part of your life. I love that because I'm just even thinking I can do better with that. Even if I'm doing my quiet time or I'm praying in my room, but then I never talk about Jesus if I come out at in front of my children, right. Other than maybe bedtime prayer, it's well, how real is that going to be to them if it's not part of the daily life? But I think also, like you said, being in community where everyone's talking about that, everyone's on the same page, right. And everyone has the similar worldview. It's they're blossoming in a community where they're getting truth and just openness spoken to them always.
Absolutely. And they're hearing, you guys talk about it and you don't even realize, because they look like they're playing, they're under the table, they're yelling. And what I realized of having 5 kids and teaching Chelsea, I thought I was teaching Chelsea. And then, the one that's 6 years younger remembers it. And I'm just how is that possible? So I love that you said that, even the friendships and the relationships are always just bringing glory to God through through his creation, through his miracles, through the cool thing, little silly thing he did today, or the answered prayer. But keeping those and talking about them all the time, your kids are hearing that. It's just going to become natural to them. They're going to look for God in all those same ways.
Well, I think I shared on my stories like a month or so ago. I think I was sharing, I went to the park with Chelsea and our friend Kayla and all of our kids. And I like shared it on my story. And I said something about like being around like-minded people with the same worldview, the same like values, and raising very similar aged kids together is quite literally life changing. And somebody DM'd me and they were like, what's life changing about it? And I don't know if it was sarcasm or if they genuinely want to know. I think they genuinely wanted to know.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I even equate? It's almost what you said. It's like the idea that you can take a friend over to somebody else's house and like completely trust, like you don't have to like micromanage, like what are they saying to my kid? Or like, it's just like, it's such a beautiful culture, I feel like, to have to raise children in, that they can just like blossom and be exactly who God made them to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you chase after that because it's hard to find.
I love
in
it.
this culture especially, it's really hard to find. People are so disconnected from each other and they've given up on it in a lot of ways. And it breaks my heart because I have a lot of employees, about 40 employees, and a lot of them are young. And it's so heartbreaking to see them sort of give up on relationships. It's so much is just virtual, and it's never going to fill that void. And it certainly isn't going to fill that void as a family when you need other families to do life with.
Yeah. I was reading a book recently. It's actually, I haven't finished it, but so far, so good. It's called Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas. But he was talking about how selfish our culture has become. And, it's a conversation. The book is all about marriage, but there was something in that just, I was like, oh, it's so true. Like we've almost twisted the biblical truth of, loving our neighbor as ourselves, loving the Lord our God and loving our neighbor. Like those are the two commandments that the Lord says are like the most important. And we've almost twisted it and turned it into, well, I can't love others if I'm not loving myself. And then it just turned from like, there's some elements of truth in that, of course, in a way, but it's also like we've twisted it so much that we've become such a self-centered society that everyone around us, like, we're like, oh, well, that person said something hurtful to me once, so I'm going to cut them off. It's not worth, like, they hurt me, I'm done. And it's you're saying, Holly, like, we're starting to give up on relationships. We're starting to give up on the local church. We're starting to give up on all these things because we've turned so selfish that we can't, like, and I mean, we're all guilty of this, definitely not speaking from a place of like superiority or anything, but it's like, we're not willing sometimes to put in the effort it can take to work through relationships because relationships are flawed, because humans are flawed. But the beauty that comes from it, when you do push past those little, miscommunications, when you do learn to communicate through that, when you learn to stick around for each other, when you learn to pursue the Lord together, in the family unit, in your friend circles, in your walk with the Lord, like there's just so many ways that it applies. And it's like relationships, godly relationships are so incredibly transformative to every aspect of your life. And it is what I've, learned in my life, and also seen you and Mike do so beautifully in your family, is like, you're willing to take the risks of getting hurt. You're willing to work through the hurts. You're willing to, find the good in everyone. Like, you're willing to put in the work it takes to build that culture around you because of how transformative it can be.
And to do that, you have to be a healthy human being. And when I say healthy human being, I don't mean I just love myself. I mean that you are actually filled up with Jesus. And I always say, when I am so filled up with Jesus, I start to overflow. You can't hurt me. It doesn't matter what you say. I don't need you to fill me up. I don't need you to tell me how awesome. I don't need you to accept me. Like, as a matter of fact, it doesn't even matter. I'm so filled with Jesus that I get to overflow his love on you, and that can transfer you. And I'm just transformed by Jesus too in the midst of that. But when we are unhealthy, we have this void in us where we are looking for people to fill that, and we get hurt, and people let us down. And honestly, people hate that I say this, but I'm going to say it because it works for me. So I have what has made me survive in ministry is I have lowered my expectations of people. And I feel like that's not what's said out there today. It's like the whole, have your boundaries. Don't let people walk over your boundaries. And like you said, I love it. You said, there is truth in that, but so often what the enemy does is he wraps the truth with a lie, or he
Yep.
wraps a lie with the truth. So you
Yep.
see the truth in it, but there's actually a deeper seated lie there. And that lie there is that, you put up these boundaries in your life, and you don't let people, and you are going to miss out on so much because people are imperfect.
Mhm.
And if you truly have that relationship with Jesus, and you've spent time with him, and you're being filled up with him and his love, not doing a bunch of stuff for him, just receiving his love, you actually can deal with this world. And so lowering expectations of people is just me going, you're human, I'm human. We're going to end up hurting each other. I'm just going to already forgive you before anything even happens. And
Yep.
I don't expect so much from people, so they don't let me down. Like, I can just love them.
I feel like what you said, amen. But I'm also hearing like what you didn't verbalize, which is basically you're not looking to other humans to fill your needs. You're looking to the Lord, which is how God designed it. And so you're not like, by lowering your expectations, you're lowering this expectation that they are going to be your God that fills all your voids, all your needs, all your desires, and do it all perfectly. No one can do that. The only person who can do that is the Lord. And so if you're turning to the right source to be, have your cup filled, then you don't need these high expectations for these other people to be perfect or to fill all your needs or to say the right things at all the right times.
Right.
It's like,
or
no,
even for
I've
yourself.
got my source. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, I love it.
I'm marinating. Okay. Are you on the struggle bus with this entrepreneurial thing? Are you overwhelmed to the max and lonely as heck? Look, I get it. You are not the only one. Owning a business is freaking hard, but it doesn't have to feel that way, which is why we created the Heart Conference. It's a place for creative business owners and dreamers of all kinds to come together in person, experience the world's greatest community, if I don't say so myself, meet your business besties, learn the top business and marketing strategies that will help you grow and scale your business, all while having the best friggin' time of your life. So if you are ready to receive over 12 hours of hardcore business education, listen to top industry leaders like Amy Porterfield teach you everything they know, connect with a community of like-minded creative entrepreneur besties, nip that feeling of loneliness in the bud, dance your pants off at the Heart Dance Party, and get paid to do what you love, then it is time to get your booty in the room and come down to Dallas, Texas, October 10th through 12th for the event of the year. There are still tickets available, and one of them has your name on it. We want you in the room in this October because you deserve to have your business journey be full of life and not loneliness. Visit theheartuniversity.com/conference to secure your spot and get ready to explode your business and have the time of your life.
Hey, if you are new here and haven't heard about our online resource shop, listen up. The Heart Shop is a digital resource and template shop for creative entrepreneurs and photographers. There are so many goodies for creative entrepreneurs in the shop, like website templates, PDF guide templates, illustrations to enhance your brand, and lots more. But one thing in particular we made sure to add was contract templates.
Y'all, the horror stories we have heard in our years of business is unmatched and a little terrifying. Clients refusing to pay after you've delivered a service, clients demanding their retainer back after canceling on you last minute. The list goes on. Business shouldn't feel like you're walking on eggshells, though. And yet that's how most of us feel when we first start our business. We're petrified to make a wrong move or have an unhappy client.
Okay, but here's the truth. One of the first foundational steps of owning your own business should be protecting yourself legally with contracts. Yes, even for friends and family. Contracts allowed us to walk in confidence as we grew our photography businesses. But also, hiring a lawyer to create custom contracts for you is a pain in the butt and the wallet. And grabbing whatever free or cheap template online is often not enough protection.
Yes, so we wanted to make this as easy and seamless for you as possible and give you the resources to make sure you have your butt protected. We have partnered with our favorite lawyer and attorney, Paige, from The Legal Page. She has not only created powerful contract templates, but her team is so present and ready to help figure out which ones you need for your business.
You can stagger contracts in our shop like the wedding photography contract, destination intimate wedding contract, cancellation and rescheduling bundle, second shooter and associate contracts, and honestly, so much more. Just head to theheartcontracts.com for 10% off. That's theheartcontracts.com. I want to pivot just a little bit, kind of in the same vein of like family legacy and everything, but kind of put entrepreneurship into the chat a little bit. How did you and your family first get started in entrepreneurship? Because that's a huge part of your family legacy, of what you and Mike do and also what your children do. So how did that first get started?
Well, first of all, my parents were entrepreneurs. And so I saw the incredible freedom they had. I just thought everybody lived like that until I met some people that were like, oh, no, my parents leave all day, or they leave at 9 and come home at 5. And then I met people who were working 30 years just to get to retirement and they hated their job. And I honestly, I was pretty naive. I was probably 18. I was blown away. Like, why would anybody live like that? And I remember meeting my mother-in-law, and I don't know, I said something to her like, well, if I didn't like my job, I would quit. And I'm sure she just thought I was the flightiest person she's ever met, because she's like, no, you work 30 years, you get retirement. This is how life works, Holly. You get insurance, you do. And my parents were like kind of free spirit hippies. And I was like, not happening with me. So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I remember at 19 years old, I was married, and I would literally go to the library. Now hear that, girls. I would go to the library. I couldn't look it up online, and I would take out every single book on business. But I look at it now and I just think there is no excuse. Like, if you want to own a business, like, it is at your fingertips. You have the internet. But I would have, 20 books and bring them home and be reading all these books on different things. And I had no money because Mike was in seminary and we were really poor. And so I did clowning. So I was a clown for a while. It actually was one of my favorite things I did.
What? I didn't know this. This is the tea.
Yes, close friends totally believe it because it's my personality. But I also, I looked into, I was like, how can I start a business with no money? Well, what if people throw it away? And people throw away dryer lint. So I'm like, I could make clothes with dryer lint. I could do this. So, I really had some stupid ideas when I was younger. But the funny thing is, years later, there was a website of people making clothes with dryer lint. And it was super, cool. I was like, all right, so before my time. But so it was always there. We took over my family's business when I was 22. Mike did not come from an entrepreneurial background. His parents worked at the same job, retired from it. So I'm super proud of him because he got thrown into my crazy family, and man, he blew my mind. He's an incredible, incredible entrepreneur. So I was 22 when we started it, and then we owned that business for a while. Long story, so I'm not going to get into it, but it burned to the ground. And then when I was 40, I was really praying personally. We had owned businesses. We were pastoring a church. I just knew that God was calling me into business. And in the shower, God gave me a vision for Trades of Hope, which is a fair trade global company empowering women out of poverty, putting food on their table, and helping them out of brothels and slums, and to be able to keep their children. And I prayed, God, bring me a partner. Well, Chelsea ended up parting at 16. She partnered with me. I was 40, and God brought me a wonderful partner and her daughter. And so I want to just encourage all you out there. I was 40 when I started that business. I've always had the entrepreneurial bug and owned businesses, but that was one that was so different. I was 40, so you're not too old, and you're not too young, because Chelsea was 16 and she played a huge part in starting that business. So never too young, never too old.
Oh, I love it. Amen.
Okay. Just to give people, because you just hit on a point that I think so many people, I think maybe publicly but silently struggle with, is the idea that I'm not a young 20 hot something. Not that you can't be hot anytime, because you absolutely can be no matter what age. But
Holly is.
I think, yes, Holly's very, but I think the mindset that we tell ourselves is I'm past my prime. Now I can't do my dream, window has now closed, and I can no longer do exciting things or big things or whatever that is. So I love that you shared that you were 40. I don't know if this is we don't have to keep this in if we don't want to, but would you be willing to share how big that, because when you say I started a business, me and Evie know, but can you share the scope, I guess, of what Trades of Hope became?
Yeah, sure. And let me just tell you, first of all, one thing is this is all God. I always joke because I say, I was a C student. I was pretty much a juvenile delinquent. I think I was number 380 out of 400 students. I am not ever going to be most likely to succeed. And so I just want to say that because that just gives all the glory to God. Because if he can do this with me, you be open, whatever. God can blow your mind what he wants to do with you if you are willing to step into scary. And so Trades of Hope became a $12 million company. We worked with 16 different countries. We had artisans making jewelry and bags and scarves all over the world. Chelsea and I have gotten to travel all over the world. I have been in the brothels of China in scary situations. I have been in the slums of India working with the most incredible women who just were born in a different country than ours and do not have the opportunities we have. So I really felt like it was a calling. God gave me a calling in my life very specifically. And he said that my calling was to empower women to be all they were created to be, to speak life into them and to help them achieve the goals in which God has called them to. And so I felt like this is what I was supposed to do forever. This was the most significant thing I would ever do. And so when a couple of years ago, God actually called me to sell it, I like wept like a baby. I'm like, no, God, no way. This is like my significance. And that's a whole other, spiritual lesson that, he's our significance. Like, it is not ours. It is not what we do. And so often we become what we do, especially when it's super cool, like empowering women out of poverty all over the world. I'm going to tell you, Trades of Hope, it was amazing and it is amazing. And I love it to this day. And I'm so proud of the work that Gretchen and Elizabeth continue to do in Trades of Hope. And I'm super proud that I was part of the start. But let's be clear, God started that business. And when we are willing to just say yes and step into it, and that's a whole other part of my story is I believe in saying, now, you got to pray this through, but God told me basically say yes to everything and I will close doors. So I say God can close a door just as easily as he can open a door. So when opportunities come to us, we say yes, and then we pray and we say, God, if this is not for us, close the door. And we've had many a business, God closed the door, but we've also had so many businesses that we just said, okay, God, somebody came to us and said, you want to buy an ice cream shop? We said yes, and it happened. Somebody came to us and said, you want to buy our donut shop? And we said yes, and it happened. And I will tell you, that was no easy thing to go from empowering women out of poverty and starting Trades of Hope and feeling kind of like a rock star to I am an ice cream lady now. It was honestly very humbling, but but God knew I needed the humbling because I was taking pride in what I'd done instead of what God had done, and I never want to walk in that again. So I'm super grateful for him, and he has blessed me more than I could ever imagine since I took that step when he said, I need you to step away from Trades of Hope. I didn't want to, but he has blessed immensely. So the thing I want to say is you might think you're doing the best, coolest thing you could ever do in your life. Oh my goodness. God could do abundantly more than even that. And he has. And so I'm so excited at 54. What has he got next for me? What next season? What next adventure? Because I'm game. I'm ready. If God says yes, I am all the way and I am in it.
I love it. Okay.
Oh man. I'm marinating even more.
You are a powerhouse. I love these conversations. And I feel like it's every time I talk to you about the Lord, family, business, any topic, I walk away with like such big pockets full of wisdom that I get to go home and like process and think about. So
Thank you.
I love it. I want to ask you a little bit, because you obviously talked about starting, Trades of Hope with Chelsea, but I also know in your current businesses, like you have your kids involved and your kids are starting their own businesses and doing their own things and all this stuff. Did you and Mike incorporate your kids in your businesses like growing up? Or I guess maybe the bigger question is like, how did you utilize business as a part of building your family legacy and your family culture?
Or even like in homeschooling, because I'm pretty sure Chelsea said about like you did that.
Yeah, we have some weird homeschool stories, but well, here's the thing. Like early on, we taught our kids that like America was built on this entrepreneurial spirit. And I'm really passionate about that because in our schools today, like they're not taught that entrepreneurial spirit. They're really, there's an undergirding of go work for somebody else, go get this degree, go find a good job. But everything you see was started by someone in business. The bowl that you ate out of this morning, someone created it and a business and to sell them. And then the gym you go to, somebody started that gym. The pillow you laid your head on, somebody came up with that concept and that design and had it manufactured. And, we start to think it's like this entities outside of individuals. But this innovation came from individuals to start with, and especially in America with all these small businesses. And so like, I just was like, we don't have to just do what everyone else is doing. Matter of fact, what I said to you about like our culture is like, we believe that we are called to bring goodness wherever we go. We're called to show the love of God wherever we go, but also to make where we are better. And so I'm like, how about instead of just going to get a job from somebody, we work on becoming the job creators so that you guys can employ people. So we wanted to teach them to be the person who starts businesses and create jobs for people. Now, of course, we want our kids to do what they're called to by God. We don't want to tell them they have to be in a family business or they have to become entrepreneurs, although they might tell you I do lean and push that way a little more than I probably should. But I was thinking about like biblical times, right? You look at and you see certain tribes, they were the tribes that took care of the temple, or they were the tribes that they're the musicians, or they were a family of carpenters. So I kind of think like we were called to be entrepreneurial. So I wanted to make sure that we incorporated that into our homeschooling. And, like I told you, I was like a C student, I was always afraid I was going to completely destroy my kids by homeschooling them because I was like the worst student ever. But because I have a high belief system, I'm like, I can learn anything. So I learned way more than I did in high school and college, actually homeschooling my kids. Like I learned things I was like, I probably should have learned this years ago. But so one of the things I really wanted to make sure they understood was business. And so, well, first, let me just add one little interesting thing here that I think, especially if you have some homeschoolers, because we always think we're going to do a terrible job. I always tell moms, I say, this is kind of morbid. I am kind of morbid, but like if you were going to die in 5 years, what would you teach your children? Those are the most important things that you should teach them. Stop getting hung up on all this other stuff. So if I knew I wasn't going to be here in 5 years, compassion, spirituality, loving people, actual skill sets they'll use. And so learning how to start.
Not trigonometry.
Unless it's part of the business they desire to do one day.
Right.
But yes. And poetry. I mean, my kids were tortured in poetry. And don't get me wrong, there's some kids, they definitely should learn some of these skills. But like in a homeschool talk, I would talk about the bent of the child. Like God has put a bent in that child. So like go with that bent. Teach them the basics, but go with that bent. Our family bent is business. God has blessed us with skill sets for business. So I knew I need to teach my kids business. And so each child, while they were in high school, they had to start a business. And Dakota and Dylan started a lawn care business. And like people like, oh yeah, well, kids, they mow lawns. Well, no, they had, a professional trailer and a professional equipment, and they had employees. That was their business. And I remember one of Dylan's friends when he was 16, he's like, oh, you have a job. What do you do? And Dylan's like, well, I own my own business. I own a lawn care business. And the kid was like, well, you can't do that. He's like, well, why not? He's like, well, because you're 16. You didn't go to college for that. You don't have all the licensing you need to start a business. And Dylan's like, Mom, I didn't even understand what he's talking about. Like he thinks you need to go to college to start a business. He thinks you need like some sort of licensing, degree before you can start a business. So it just shows you like we're not being taught that. They were so shocked. And then Chelsea started a fitness business. So she was teaching people like how to take care of their body, which she still does so well today. And Cassidy sang with a band at local coffee shops and got paid for that. And Dawson made surfboards and bought and sold them and still buys and sells and flips them, even today. And then we had all of our kids working at 14 and 15. And they got to try all kinds of different roles, especially in Trades of Hope, did a little bit of everything. And Chelsea was our COO, and Cassidy still works for Trades of Hope in the marketing, does a lot of their graphics and everything. And so we really encourage them, like, try everything. And I'm not going to lie, I'm probably not what you would call a gentle parenter. Because, there's so many beautiful things with gentle parenting, don't get me wrong, but I do go like, oh, yeah, I could have learned a lot from it. But on the other hand, I really, really encouraged my kids and even made them at points to do the scary things. Do the scary thing. Do the thing you were terrified to do, because if you can do that at 16, you will be so much better off in life, because it will help you deal with normal anxiety. Anxiety is normal for every single person. We all have it when we're afraid to do something, and it can become paralyzing if you don't work through it. So if your kids work through it at a young age, so they really were challenged to take on roles and jobs at businesses that would stretch them and grow them. But the cool thing, it also showed them like, wow, I didn't even know I'd be good at this. And wow, I didn't know I would love this. And most of them realized they loved business. And like I said, Chelsea helped start Trades of Hope. And she was, 16, and it became that $12 million company by the time she was 18. And she was a huge part of that. And now her husband and her, they own their own construction and flipping company and do very, very well. And God's blessed her for honestly learning all the stuff she learned. She took into her, I don't know if it's second or third business, but, and then Dawson actually helped me decide to buy the waffle cone, the ice cream shop. I had him come in and work with me for a week. And I said, Dawson, what do you think? Do you think we should buy this? You know? And I had him, I think he was 15 at the time, like pray through it. Like, do you think as a family, this is something that you think would be good for our family? And honestly, after dealing with women in poverty, and I think God sort of rescued me from that, because there were days I couldn't even sleep at night worrying about, women in brothels and could we sell enough of their products, that God rescued me. And I get to be like in the happiest business ever, which is ice cream and donuts. So it was cool to have Dawson praying with me about, should we buy this ice cream business? And then Dylan, I think he was 24 at the time. COVID happened. Everything shut down. He was working in big churches in San Francisco as their videographer. And everything shut down. There was no going to church. So he moved home and he started a crepe shop, boba tea shop. And we helped him, of course, but he did all the work. And that was stuff he had also learned through that high school homeschooling, and then also through years of being in business. Like it wasn't scary to him. He's like, yeah, let's start this. Let's see how this goes. And now he's traveling the world as a self-employed photographer and videographer. And I think right now he's in either Sweden and heading to Africa next week, taking pictures and videography.
Oh my gosh, this entire conversation is amazing. I like that you're like, he's somewhere. He's doing his thing.
I never know. And now Cassidy, she worked for a year with the ice cream shop. And now she's 3 months into owning, partnering with us for a waffle cone in Jacksonville. And it's already profitable. And Dakota, our oldest son, runs all of our family businesses. And he is helping us to acquire more businesses to build into what we feel God's calling us for our future. And Dawson works now at all of our businesses, jumping from each one and flipping surfboards. So that is the rundown of the 5 kids and how they've been involved. I'm sure they're doing really cool things too that I don't even know about. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not all about like our family. Like they have lives of their own and interests and all that, that are in wide ranges in their life.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's like so many things that we could pull from everything that you just said, but I almost feel at the crux of it, or at the meat, the heart, potatoes, whatever of it is
the heart and potatoes.
I said the meat.
Making me hungry.
I said the meat, and then I said the heart. What you get. The listeners
Without your point, continue.
The listeners speak Lindsay. It's fine. We understand each other. What you said, what I heard was even from a young age, you encourage them to do hard, risky things, and not like risky in a bad way, but risky in the sense of like so many kids are terrified and are stuck in anxiety and especially in today's world are just like the only comfort they have is a screen, which is so sad to me. And it seems like from what, obviously I wasn't there when you were raising your kids, but it seems like from what you described, you encouraged them to go out and do hard things, and you taught them through homeschooling, like not only just like obviously like the normal subjects, but also like life skills that they would need to be powerful people in the world. Like I think Chelsea's told me that like, I don't know what age she was, but like you made her like call the dentist to make her own appointment. Like things that like, I don't know what age, but like we would always like rely on our mom or dad to do. Or like, I've tried to do that with Eloise. Obviously she's 3. So there's only so much.
You've made her call the dentist?
No. I'm not like, I'm not like, I've tried like, so if we're at a coffee shop and she wants water, I've tried to encourage, it hasn't worked quite yet, but we're working on it. Like I'll be like, hey, go up to the counter and ask for water. And she'll be like, no, you do it. And I'll be like, I don't want water though. That's a you problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did that. And obviously pray about each child because like, I think as a mom now with my kids grown, like now you go like, okay, how did I damage you? What did I do wrong? What did I do right? And my kids are so sweet. And as parents, we don't do everything right. And so I really believe in relying on the Holy Spirit. Like, all my 5 kids are very different and they needed different things from me. And I did not parent each one of them exactly the same way. I asked God to reveal their personalities to me. And I got some things really wrong. And sometimes, I've had to ask forgiveness even as like adults when I found out like I compared a child to another child and they're all gracious and they go, Mom, that's being a mom and that's hard. And, they have such grace for me. But I don't think parents should just be so afraid they're going to damage their child that they become like a non-existent parent to say, I believe these things are right. And for my kids and what I feel like the calling on our family, I do believe that they need to do those hard things. So yeah, calling the dentist, going, but I love that you're talking to her now. She doesn't have to do it now, but because you're talking to Eloise about it right now, it becomes normal and somewhat expected. And at one point she's just going to be, oh yeah, I've heard this enough. I'm going to finally do it. Like they don't have to do it the first time.
Right.
In the sense of like, you're 3 and you're asking to go ask something, but just they know like, oh, this is a common thing that like I am capable. My mom believes in me to do this thing. Like that says so much to them. Like, you can do that. And even, I know it's kind of scary sometimes. So maybe next time we'll do it,
I feel like this almost goes back to what you said about like, they're always listening. Cause like, I'll repeat to Eloise, just like, hey, you are a powerful person. You can do hard things. And then she'll remember that and come back to like throw it in my face when I'm like not wanting her to do something or like, I can't remember a specific situation, but it'll be a situation where I'm just like, no, you can't do that. And she'll be like, I can do hard things.
Oh yeah. She's so smart. She's so smart. Watch it.
Oh man. I love it. Holly, what would you give? Like if there's one piece of advice you have for moms out there wanting to establish a similar family culture in their own family that you and Mike have built in yours, what would you say or recommend to that mom?
Be the biggest influence in your kid's life. You be the biggest influence. You and your husband, you be the biggest influence in your kids' life. Not their peers, not their teachers, not anyone else. Because family culture takes time together.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Amen.
Do you have any hold on. Do you have any practical steps for somebody like that's maybe they have young kids or maybe they don't even have young kids. Maybe they have intermediate kids, like a 10 to 15 age or young, whatever age. Okay. That I'm spiraling. They have kids. Moving on. Yes. What would be a practical step to, or a couple practical steps to making you as the parents the biggest influence in their life?
Well, I think don't be the critic all the time. It's really hard when they're young because you feel like, your job is to teach them. So you're always like, redirecting them or, saying like, oh, it's not done that way. It's done this way. Like that's why being with them is so important because there needs to be time to correct them and there needs to be time to redirect them. But there also needs to be time to make cupcakes with them and dance in the rain with them and make up pretty little silly stories with them and listen to their big crazy ideas that like make no sense because they've said the same word 15 times in a row. And hear them, really hear them. I wish I did a better job of that when they were younger. Because I think I am just naturally like so much about life's lessons, like everything's a lesson. And, I just wish I had laughed and played more with them and spent more time on the floor with them, and that's where I can say like, being intentional is so important, but be intentional also to kind of not be intentional sometimes. If that makes from any sense at all, that it doesn't always have to be a lesson. It can be just being silly and fun and playing games with them and celebrating them for everything they do, even if they fail, if they try to celebrate them and not being so critical. That time in their life is so incredibly important. And you will become the influence because you're the one they're going to look to for that celebration. You're going to look the one they look to when they do something exciting. They want to share it with you because you've earned the right in their life too.
Oh, that's so good.
Wow.
Oh, Holly.
This is so good.
Every conversation I ever have with you, I'm like, all right, let me bring a recorder so I can re-listen to that again. Like,
well, we did it. We did it this time.
It's true.
Well, this was the spot that I did want to mention because I know you said one piece of advice, but I really would encourage to speak belief into them so they know that they can do anything. And one thing my parents gave me, a gift my parents gave me, and I say it's the best gift they ever gave me because I feel like I was able to give it to my children, is failure paves your way to success. And for them to know, like, I'm just proud you tried. At this. And for those people out there, I would say consider homeschooling because it really does give you the time that you don't have in today's crazy busy world, to really build that relationship and be that influence because you get a lot more time with them. And homeschooling does not take the same amount of time school does. Like we were done in 3 hours. So
Amen. Oh, I love it. Okay, Holly.
I'm just literally sitting here like, okay, wait, we need to have you back on to talk about this and then talk about this and talk about this.
Well, Lindsay and I actually were talking about, I'm just going to say this on air. Lindsay and I were just having this conversation of when I get to Florida we're going to start, at least right now, the tentative plan is, so podcast listeners, don't hold us to this if this changes for whatever reason. Our tentative plan is to take the podcast onto a video format as well. So we'll have it audio and
especially because
video.
we'll be in the same location. We have to, right?
Yes,
we have to.
Yes. So we're going to do like the video in like Lindsay's office in Florida. And we were talking and we were like, we should have a conversation with Chelsea and Holly and Lindsay and I all just sitting around on like a couch in Lindsay's office or something, like having
long form Joe Rogan style,
like 2-hour podcast talking about like,
oh gosh, you get Chelsea and I together, you're going to hear all the secrets because we just don't hold back. So I don't know.
We want those secrets. Okay, listener, whoever's listening, you right now in the car, in the gym, wherever you are. Let us know if you want that as well. Okay.
Yeah.
I made that like so intimate and that didn't need to be. Okay.
So intimate and so like direct. Okay, Holly, we're gonna ask you 3 last questions as we wrap up this episode. So I know you like to read, right? I'm pretty sure you do.
Yes, never fiction. I'm so sorry, Lindsay, but I'm a nonfiction girl all the way.
No, it's fine. Literally, Chelsea and I just talked about that the other day. She was like, my mom hates fiction. She hates people that hate fiction. No, I'm kidding. You don't. But we're here for all kinds of books, nonfiction, fiction, all of it. So give us whatever insight you have, your favorite book.
Yes. So I just read Leadership Not by the Book by the founder of Hobby Lobby, David Green. And I actually bought it for all my kids. I did because it was so good. And I learned how to really live out that our businesses, they belong to God and not us. We are just stewards of them. And you can say that all you want, but like, are you putting that into practice? And it's crazy generosity. So I really loved that book. So go buy that book, Leadership Not by the Book, founder of Hobby Lobby, David Green. And then I am a buffet kind of girl. I love Tribe of Mentors. You guys have probably read that one by Timothy Ferriss. It's a compilation of tools, tactics, and habits from 130 of the world's top performers. And I just
I have not read that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Putting that on my list with a bunch of stars next to it for like top of list.
Yeah, it's so good. Now, that is not like bent on Christian at all. So like, you know, for me, I like, pick and choose stuff, but I just love hearing like what people say, like, this is how I got to where I am today. And this is how I found balance in my life. So I love that one.
That's amazing.
And then I had all my kids read when they were about 14, Winning with People by John Maxwell, because I think social skills are so incredibly important in the world today. Like you can be the best at anything pretty much. But if you have no social skills, you probably aren't going to move very far in life. So Winning with People by John Maxwell is a great book.
Oh, I love
Amazing. Okay. Last question. What is the biggest lesson that you have learned in your years of business?
Well, you a lot of what you asked me about was legacy of our family. And ultimately, I want you to know that it is not about the Wehde family legacy. It's about Jesus' legacy.
Yeah.
The Wehde family legacy is that we represent Jesus wherever we go and we bring his love. And our prayer is that anyone could walk into any one of our businesses and that they would say, I think this is a Wehde family business. And you go, why? And I don't know. I just feel something. I feel God's love and his peace. And what we tell all of our employees is our goal is to make people feel loved, valued, and known. And they don't need to know Jesus to work for us. We love them because, God calls us to love people and we want to just pour into their lives. But that's how Jesus makes us feel, loved, valued, and known. So I love talking about like family legacy, but ultimately there is no family legacy. There is Jesus' legacy. And so business is about people and it's about loving people. And if you want your customers to feel loved, you need to love your employees and it trickles down. And another thing I've learned that's been a really good lesson is let people go that are not a culture fit. It's actually good for them as much as it is for you. But if somebody is not a fit culturally, it really does dilute who God's called you to be in your business.
Yeah.
And lastly, for all of you out there, anyone can start a business. If I could start a business, you can start a business. If God's called you into business, it is the most beautiful thing to take your family on that journey with you. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Pray, ask God to direct and lead you and do the scary stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Amen.
I said, what's the biggest lesson you learned in business? And Holly's like, hold my beer. I got this. I have 3. I'm going to expand on your question and give you more than what you asked for. Thank you.
We are here for it. Sorry. I told you you'd have to be like, okay, now Holly.
No, we want more. We eagerly want more, but we also have another interview. And so unfortunately we have to cut it today.
We can't do Joe Rogan style today. However,
you guys did great getting it right there at 3:00 or whatever time it's on there.
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, you're actually right. It's literally on the dot. Wow, go us.
Amazing. You guys are rock stars.
Oh, man.
Oh, Holly, you're the best. For any of our listeners who are like, I want to learn more about Holly and Mike, either connect with you, come to your church, engage with your businesses, anything like that. Is there any way that people can connect with you, learn from you, follow along on your journey, anything like that you want to give them links to?
Well, all of our businesses and church have websites, but if you want to know the, down and dirty, intimate stuff, follow me on Instagram, Holly Wehde. My last name is Wehde, spelled odd. And then on Facebook, I'm also Holly Wehde, but my maiden name is in there too, because I still want to fill my legacy from my family and generations before me, Holly Boothman Wehde. So come follow me.
Oh, I love
Amazing.
it.
Holly, we love you. You are incredible. Thank you for distilling your wisdom to all of our listeners. I literally cannot wait for this episode to air. I am like, come on, let's air it.
Yay. I was honored to be here, ladies, and I can't wait till we're all in the same town.
Yeah.
Yay. Very soon. Literally next week. No, in 2 weeks. Almost 2 weeks. All right.
Awesome.